first up, I want to talk to you guys about Romero, because we all saw his performance on the weekend, which I thought was disgraceful. We saw he pretty much, quick clap to the away end and then walk straight down the tunnel. I'll start with captain's armband as well. Yeah, wearing the captain's armband. Kate, do you feel like he's checked out already? I mean, we've heard those rumours with Atletico Madrid. We know his contract is kind of, got a couple of years left on it. Do you think he's checked out now at Tottenham, or do you think people are just making a bit too much of what happened on the weekend?
No, I've been saying he's been checked out for weeks. I said it with Dave on Irish Hotspur and got a lot of people giving me a lot of abuse for it. But I think it's so obvious that he's checked out. He kind of uses Tottenham as a training camp. He comes there, gets fit and goes and plays the worldie for Argentina, and then comes back and looks like he doesn't give a monkeys about the club. I'm not going to lie, I think there's a few players that look like they've checked out, and I think a lot of that does stem from Ange Postecoglou. I said to Jim this morning, there's part of me that feels kind of sorry for Maddison. I think it's blatantly obvious that him and Ange don't get along, and I think we're not seeing the best of him because he's kind of half checked out. But look, for me, Cutie, I'm not his biggest fan anyway. I just think he's got a bit of an attitude. He can be lazy, he can be careless, and I think he'll be gone in the summer, and it's time for us to find somebody else because he just does not look bothered in the slightest about playing.
Do you agree with that, George? Do you think he's kind of checked out, doesn't want to be here? What are you like kind of assessing out the situation and his performance on the weekend?
Well, the performance was disgraceful, like I said there, just dreadful. The goal that he conceded that was his fault was just, it was like he gave up in that moment because it's like he had the ball, he had control of it, and he was just like, yeah, this is only Spurs. Like, he never does this for Argentina. You watch him for Argentina, he puts in solid performances, literally putting his life on the line. Every time he's wearing his heart on his sleeve when he's playing for Argentina, but it's never like that for Spurs, or it hasn't been like that this season anyway. I feel like last year he had a good year, thought he was going to build upon it, but just failed to do so this season. Definitely checked out for me. We saw obviously a few weeks ago the rumours between him, Atletico Madrid, and all of that stuff, and that those are probably conversations that have gone on, and he's probably already started to look elsewhere at the moves that he's going to make in the summer. I think first signing Danso and putting in a bid for Gahey is sort of also an indication that Romero probably has sort of alluded to the fact he did make comments in December saying that he wasn't happy with the club's ambition and where we were going. And yeah, look, I don't blame him for that side of things, but the performance on the pitch, especially as a captain, needs to be better, and you can't be doing what he's done. So he's been a player that I've always been a big fan of up until, I suppose, recent months and sort of his performances throughout this season. But I think sometimes you just have to let it go. And you know what, like, he's not good right now. He's probably, when I actually look at it, and I think if you break down the numbers, maybe don't look at direct goals leading, like errors leading to goal, but if you look at a lot of the goals we've conceded, they've been Romero being at fault. His marking, his poor decision making, his lackluster sort of posture in the defense at times, and also the fact that he pushes up so high, because everyone's seen those still pictures that have been going all over Twitter, those still images where you got one defender back. Romero's higher than the two fullbacks who are inverted. It's just, and then we got midfielder back like Maddison in the back. Like, it's just a mess. Romero doesn't help the situation right now. So I think, yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah. Sim, you feeling the same way? It's hard not to when you see that, you see all the rumours circulating on Atletico. You know that move, yeah, to be fair, even if things were going well here for him and for us, it's a move which he would still probably want to make, to be honest. Given the fact that he's got friends there, Argentinian nationals there, that he goes well in international team. They're fighting near the top of the La Liga every single year. They've got a brilliant Argentinian legend of a manager in Diego Simeone. It's sunny Spain. It's nicer weather. Like, I'm sure even if we were up there challenging for the Champions League this season, there's a chance he would still want to move. So it doesn't surprise me that when a team like Atletico come knocking, that he's, and I'm sure as the rumours are, the journalists reporting there've been conversations already between the two camps. So I do start to question whether they have got into his head, and whether he, we know in football, it only takes 1 or 2% for you to drop off, and all of that, and makes a massive, massive difference because the margins are so fine. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is starting to happen. It's important to remember, though, on international duty, he did make a massive mistake for Argentina, I think, against Brazil. So it's not just for Tottenham that it's happened, but definitely for Tottenham's happening more, I think it's fair to say. And the performance in general wasn't particularly great. What I was saying about Romero is I wouldn't be surprised if on Thursday we see a different Romero in terms of when there's something. I feel like these league games at the moment, you can clearly see it's hard for these players to motivate themselves when there's just nothing on the line, and we're losing game after game. We're letting games pass us by. It's like even if we win these games, nothing really helps. Yes, we get wins on the board, and then maybe it changes the mood amongst the fans and stuff. But like in terms of what we can achieve by winning league games, not much. But I wouldn't be surprised on Thursday we know what a big game it is with what's on the line for our season as well, a trophy on the line, and another chance for a player like Romero who, whatever you want to say about him, has won quite a few trophies in his career, and I doubt he would mind putting another European trophy onto his honours list. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if we see a different kind of Romero on Thursday who's a lot more concentrated and on it when he knows that if we can get through these games and we'll lift the trophy, that'll be a massive that'll be his first club title, wouldn't it? I guess it hasn't won any title for a club side yet, so he knows what a big deal that would be. But I think for these league games, 100%, I think I don't think he's the only one, but I think especially when you're looking at him wearing the captain's armband and he's supposed to be a leader on that pitch. Ange has said it's not a secret. He's not the kind of leader who is a massive talker, and he said that previously. He's not a leader who rallies the troops in that way. He kind of tries to lead by example, but he definitely wasn't doing that on the weekend, was he? And especially after the game, not really acknowledging the fans, just kind of going straight down the tunnel, looking pissed off. It kind of looks like when you're the captain on the day and you're supposed to be the kind of leader of the troops on the day, you're supposed to be kind of representing the football club as the guy who's leading the team out, and he's the captain. And to perform like that and behave like that, and after the game, you should be, even during the game when people are making mistakes and things are going wrong. I know he's not much of a talker, but he's got to be doing something. He can't just let things pass it by. And it seems like he more too often does that. I feel like Romero more often than not needs someone next to him, maybe who's a bit more experienced, or someone who is a talker. You see for Argentina, he really thrives when you've got Otamendi next to him, who's that bit more experienced defender. I think he's the one who does the talking, and he allows Romero to just do the... Well, he looks a lot better with Van der Ven next to him, and Van der Ven not exactly the talker. He does look better with Van der Ven, but even with Van der Ven next to him, I still think there are problems there. I'm not saying it's not as bad as it is now, which definitely is, but I feel like Romero's at his very best when he has someone a bit more experienced next to him, and I feel like he needs someone who's going to marshal that backline, because he doesn't seem to want to do it. He seems to be the guy who, quality-wise, could be your best centre-back at the club. But in terms of the communication skills and the leadership skills and all that kind of stuff, he just doesn't seem to have that element to him. It seems to be a guy who wants a different centre-back to take out that element, I guess, it seems to me.
I agree. Sorry, can I just interject there and say I do agree with what Sim says there, but I think when you look at last season, the Romero we saw alongside Van der Ven, we were getting some excellent performances out of him. And I remember it might have been on him and saying, I think Van der Ven's bringing out the best in Romero because he's a lot calmer knowing that he's got someone there who can pick up the ball if he makes a mistake. So I think he's played really good alongside Van der Ven.
Yeah,
I just think it is just that he just doesn't really want to be at Spurs anymore.
Yeah, I mean, the performance that we saw on the weekend was just a disgusting performance of, look, I don't give a shit anymore. And when you've got the captain's armband on, look, it's never, you can't do that at the best times, even when you're not a captain. But when you are a captain, you're supposed to be the one leading by example. You're supposed to be the one leading these young players through this game. And when anyone's looking at the captain, they're looking for inspiration. And that performance was nothing short of disgusting. And his actions after the game, basically not even acknowledging the away fans that had to suffer through that horrible, horrible 90 minutes. I mean, I was so angry at the end of the game after seeing Romero's performance and also his actions towards the away end. And it kind of does bring up the question, and I think we'll probably all kind of agree, but we do have this game on Thursday. Does he start this game? I mean, I guess we don't have many options, do we, Kate?
If Danso was available, he would.
Do you start him over Romero if he was available?
I feel like Danso's played better than since Danso's been in the squad. Danso's really good.
And when from the performances that we saw from Danso, I was already looking at Danso and saying, he's played better than what we've seen of Romero from the start of the season. Why would we make a change? I wouldn't want to stop him in form. And ultimately, Romero hasn't picked up form since he come in. He's had numerous of bad games. I think the only decent games may have been Bournemouth, but I can't. Was that the game?
Oh, no. Bournemouth was the one he was
the bad ones.
No, the bad one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a game. It's horrible.
Yes.
I think it was the game after that. Like, he had a half decent game.
In the league, he's been pretty good. RZ and Frankfurt, both those games, he was pretty good.
I still don't think Romero starts. I think Danso's got the potential to be a fantastic player, but he's not at Romero's level yet. So I think even if Danso's fit, he starts Romero on Thursday because, again, he's on a good item for nothing. And don't think I'm defending Ange because, honestly, I'm really not. But if we started Romero and we lost, he'd get abused. If we started Danso and we lost, you see what I mean? He's on a good item for nothing. But you've got to play your best team, and Romero is levels above Danso at the moment, in my opinion, even though his form isn't great.
The reality, though, is like, after that on the weekend, surely he can never put on the captain's armband again.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have that from a captain. It's just nowhere near good enough. And why, if he has checked out and they know behind the scenes that he's checked out, then why is he putting on the captain's armband? Why isn't someone like James Maddison wearing the captain's armband on the weekend?
Oh, no, Ben.
He's the other vice captain.
This is the problem. And I was going to mention it when Sim was saying it, because you mentioned how Ange also said that Romero is not much of a talker leader. I mean, Son's not much of a talker leader. Jed Spence pretty much said that Maddison's not much of a talker leader, but he'll put his arm around his shoulder and have conversations with him, but he's not much of a This is the biggest problem with Spurs. This is why we don't win anything.
Well, the only one that's a shouter talker is Vicario, really.
Vicario. And then I don't know if you guys saw, like, there was a little clip of Vicario going around where he's grabbing Bergvall's face, basically trying to tell him, keep your head up, like, stay focused. Sort of what an experienced head would do with a young player. And people are saying he's abusing Bergvall. What is this going on the pitch? And this is the problem with Spurs. It's like, we're too used to having these leaders that are setting examples, but the example they set is not good enough. As much as we all love Sonny, since he's been captain, he's literally his game's got worse and worse and worse. And that's not me saying that's because he's captain. That's just because he's naturally got older. He's not good enough to play full 90 minutes twice a week at this level all the time. He's just not good enough for that. So he shouldn't have been our captain. Romero, I probably agreed that I thought he was captain material, but it seems like he likes to take a back seat. Doesn't really want to, lead the back line, do what Kate have asked of him. That's what Ben Davies does when he's in there. So, and that's why you see us doing offside trap a lot better when he's there rather than when Romero's in there. But Romero just doesn't listen. And then Maddison, again, like, we don't have any leaders. Maddison's not someone that leads on the pitch by example. He's not someone that's constantly shouting around, and he gets hooked off pretty much every single game. So that goes to show that the manager doesn't trust him. Clearly, the dressing room can't respect that if you're coming off every game. So our biggest issue, and when we go into these games, is I try to look and be like, who's going to hold the players accountable on the pitch? Who's going to be leading that team on the pitch? If it's not Vicario, who's right at the back of the pitch, we don't have no one in that starting 10 ahead of him that is doing that job. And that's why we have such a big issue at Spurs. And I generally feel like that's what's been our biggest issues for the last 10 or so years, because even when we had Kane, we had Eriksen, we had Dele Alli, they're all good players. None of them were leaders. None of them leaders. And you can see that moving onwards from Spurs. None of them have gone on to lead successfully or do anything of that level because they weren't that. Maybe Alderweireld and Vertonghen were two leaders at the back, and they done their job amazingly.
Like everywhere's our captain, wasn't he? Lloris was.
Yeah, Lloris was the club captain, and thing with Lloris, I've never been a big fan of goalkeeper captains. That's the thing. I feel like they're too far back in the pitch. They can't communicate with players during the game. They can't go and have conversations in the game because they're going to have to run halfway up the pitch. It just doesn't make sense. So I think goalkeeper captains aren't the one, but we need a proper captain, and like a Roy Keane, going back to Ledley, going back to Sol, going back to that. As much as I hate Sol, he's Judas.
I mentioned
the Judas. You guys get what I mean? Going back to like the days long before where it's lead by example. There's more captains where we had people that were speakers, people that were talkers.
So wait, George, would you, for you, is it fair to say whatever happens next season, manager-wise, do you think the leadership group needs to be disbanded?
100%. 100%. The leadership group's been, they've led Spurs to the worst ever season statistically by percentage defeat ever in our history. They're leading Spurs to 20 Premier League defeats, which is very likely. I think we will 100% finish on 20 Spurs defeats. This leadership group was the people that got put in place in line with Ange's management. Maddison got given the number 10 shirt from Harry Kane. He made it seem like, oh yeah, he gave me, his blessing to take this shirt and lead Spurs. He's led Spurs to nothing. We led us to bottom half of the table, closer to where he finished with Leicester. He basically turned Spurs into Leicester. They went from 4th to 17th. That's what we are right now.
About this though, what do we do about this? Because we say we don't have leaders in the dressing room to form a leadership group, right? How can we buy a leader? We can't buy a leadership group this summer. So what are we supposed to do for next season?
Kulusevski's there. I think Kulusevski's a player that we can build our team around. I think Kulusevski leads his country, and I feel like he can be a player who has the right mentality. Whenever you hear him speak, he feel like he has the right mentality of what I want to see from a captain. Maybe need to see him be a bit more vocal on the pitch, but I feel like if you get given that leadership role, then it allows you to be that vocal, and sort of other players and your peers have to respect you because you've been put in that role by the manager. So I would imagine that Kulusevski would take on that role, being that he's already a national team captain.
But you look at Bentancur as well. I think maybe Kulusevski, Bentancur, Vicario, and maybe buy one other to come in the summer, I guess.
Yeah. Bentancur would be another one. I think Bentancur is a player that a lot of people are on the fence with because he can put out some really good performances, but some of his other performances have been really bad. I think that's due to the manager. I think it's due to the system. With every Spurs fans pointed out how the lack of midfield structure it's affected all of our midfielders. I'm not a big fan of James Maddison, but I would more than be happy to say that the midfield structure has not helped James Maddison perform. And with another manager, he probably will play better. I think all of our midfielders play better, barring Basuma, because he's just rubbish.
Do you think, though, like, let's say Son and Maddison are going to remain here next season. If a new manager comes in and says, you guys are no longer part of the leadership group, does that not already cause tension there? Like, Son has to be part of the leadership group regardless.
Yeah.
He has to.
I think Sonny will be because he's naturally, he's Spurs. Like, that he is the only guy that's been there for this long. And he has the most respect from all the players. He would have to be in the leadership group. But because he's going to be phased, I think any manager that comes in will understand he's going to be phased out of the team, especially if we're not playing European football next season. He can't be playing every week. He's got to be coming off the bench and having an impact. So he's got to be part of the leadership group, but he can't be the club captain because you're not playing.
You look at Sonny, right, and you can say about his performances and his leadership ability on the pitch in terms of that Roy Keane vibe that we all want to see. Yeah, fine, he doesn't have that. But what he does have, he actually does lead by example in terms of the way he lives his life, the way he trains, the way he commands respect because of the pure quality and what he's done in the game. So I don't buy that that Son shouldn't be part of the leadership group and he's not a leader in some sense of the word, because he is, but he's just not the leader and the captain that we all want to see.
I think there's a little bit of revisionism going on here. I'm going to be a little bit controversial, as I always am. Whenever I stream with George, I always get a little bit of controversy come up. Look, I think when we first started, the first season under Ange, when it started, I think there was people going, wow, we're seeing a different Romero. He looks calm, this leadership, he's really taking it upon himself. I've heard so many people say, he hasn't been getting the red cards that he was getting because he's taken this really seriously. And the same with Madders. I think a lot of it isn't just because they're not leaders, because I don't think there's many teams around that have got leaders like Roy Keane anymore. They just don't exist. We don't see captains like that anymore. I think a lot of it comes from Ange. I don't think they're buying into the philosophy. I don't think they like the system. I don't think I think they can see it's not working. If we can see it's not working, then I'm sure the players can see it's not working. And I think there's an element of downing tools. I think Maddison, look, I don't condone it. I think he falls on the floor too often. I know he does lots of things that annoy me. I never wanted him, but I don't think we're seeing the best of Maddison. Sonny, I think is getting older, but to even consider not putting him as some part of the leadership group is disrespectful to him, because he's been so loyal. He's been such a good servant to Spurs. And Romero, again, he could be a captain for anybody if he wanted to. I just don't think he wants to be here. And I think a lot of the players, like us fans, are just checking out because it's not working and Ange isn't changing anything. So, it might not be right. They get paid a fortune to play the game, but kind of can't blame them when it's week in, week out, same tactic, same losses, same results, same having to stand in front of a camera and go, yeah, we should be doing better. It must be soul destroying.
So for you, Kate, you got no problem with the leadership group. You carry on as is for next season?
Well, I personally think Romero will be gone. I think Hulu needs to be brought into the leadership group. I think Hulu, Sonny, and maybe Madders still, for me, under a different manager would work. But I think we've got the makings of brilliant leaders in Archie Gray. I think he's going to be a superb leader one day. And I think Bergvall as well. I think we've got, so, I think we've just got to be a little bit patient. Leaders at the minute, we all want them. I see Man United fans crying for a leader. I mean, it's just something that's not there so much anymore. I'm just more concerned with getting results and getting a good management team rather than a leadership team.